Hello, hello, hello. Hi, welcome. I am Sylvia Hayes, and you are watching Good News at Primetime. Tonight, our show is going to be a doozy. We're going to be talking about helpmate, partnership, and property. Helpmates, partnership, and property. Yeah, we're into the relationship today. And this is going to be a good topic because I heard some things that kind of upset me a little bit. So we're going to have to discuss those things today because, in relationships, you shouldn't have to think of yourself as property or ownership and all of that kind of stuff. But we're going to get into it. But before we get into it, we're going to talk about my book, Power Thoughts Empowering You to Be Successful in Life. You can get this book at Amazon, Google the book, lulu.com, various places. This book will empower you to be successful. It will empower you to think better in your relationships, to know that you don't have to be submissive. Well, I ain't gonna say submissive, but let me see. What is the word I can say? Knowing that you don't have to be total under control of somebody else. You don't have to depend on somebody else to validate you. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't need nobody to validate you to make you feel like you are good or you are worth somebody and you are lovable because God gave you that Himself. Okay? So you accept it within your heart that you are validated, you're a good person, and if they miss out on you, they missing out on a good thing. Okay? That's the way I look at it. They miss out on you and they treat you wrong, they did the wrong thing. Okay? So you don't need nobody to validate you because love yourself. That's the thing. Love yourself. And we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and get right on to the topic because, but before I get started, I have to say this. I have to say this. I was reading this article, this post, where they said, where the man, I guess it was a man, said that women should appreciate the men for choosing them, picking them as a wife. And that really ticked me off. For a woman to have to appreciate a man choosing her to be a wife, like that was a privilege. That's no. Do you know how many men I turned down? No. I have a choice. It's not a privilege for you to choose me. It's a privilege for you to be accepted by me. That's what it is. If I accept you, then you are privileged. It ain't the other way around. That's the way I look at it in my book. I don't have to appreciate, you because you chose me. You might be a skunk or something. Why would I appreciate a skunk? Nope. Nope. I know who I am. I value me. So I don't have to appreciate you unless you are a really good person. And the way they put it is like whatever a man put out, it's okay. Women have to appreciate them, appreciate like they don't have a choice. Like they don't have a choice. Women have choices. Just remember that. I know a lot of people be wanting to get married and all that kind of stuff. You have choices. Don't just take anything just to have a man. Nah, no. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and bring in Reggie. Reggie, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know what? This is a great topic this evening. I hope that everybody come on over. Uh, Check us out, Square Mile Media Atlanta. Like, share, and subscribe. This is a tough topic. As a male, I understand, but I've got sisters. I have women in my family. And matter of fact, I had a conversation with my son just a little bit ago, and hopefully he tunes into this show. And I pulled something up. It says several researchers have stated that the first evidence of patriarchal structure, signs of a sexual division of labor, dates more than 2 million years ago, deep within humanity's evolutional uh, process. So we're looking at this was not always the case. Human societies weren't always male dominated. Okay, I'll say that again. Human societies were not always male dominated. The switch came when we became farmers and suggested ways to roll back towards a more equal system. When men went out, and gathered, they started establishing roles. The vast majority of cultures are patriarch, patriarchs, patriarchies, where men are more likely than women to hold positions of social, economic, and political power. So it is tempting to assume that this is the natural state of affairs, perhaps because men are on average stronger than women, but a study of humanity suggests this answer, is just too simple. Just to say men should be dominating women. There's a whole lot of studies, and when we talk about 2 million years ago, okay. Now, I was about to bring up some of the things that reinforce that. And when you look at now, this is something in nature as humans, male, female, okay. The dominant thing, who should be in charge, was not established until later. You look at here, especially as men, we get a first thought that something's wrong with the woman in the story of Adam and Eve. You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Adam was in charge of the garden. Everything was going all right until Eve showed up. So it automatically goes into a situation that shows the women to be the lesser, okay? And then when you look at the progress throughout history, the kingdoms that there were women that had kingdoms and things like that, but they are not mentioned. And that is done on purpose. And this is within the last, maybe 2,500 years. Women, if a woman did something, she was always at the judgment of men. Okay. That meant that if a woman did anything outside of what a man told her to do, she was considered, she could be whipped, stoned, or whatever. If a woman had sex without a man approval, which would be that he took her on as a wife, she was considered a harlot or something like that, and she would be stoned to death. Okay, if she got pregnant or anything like that. So a lot of the rules that have been set up in society have been set up by men. Okay,
Yeah.
and we can point to European culture, or we can go, because like when we talk about 2 million years ago, that's showing you how it migrated into not just European culture, African culture, Chinese culture, Indian culture, all forms of society. Where did it become natural for the woman to be in second place? When you look at a lot of customs and procedures in Asian culture, the woman has to follow behind the man. She
Mm-hmm.
leads the way, and she follows behind. Well, all these things were set up later by men. So we're just going to throw that in there.
Yeah, and at one time we had women who were rulers and king of, I'm not king of the armies, but ruled leaders of armies. You know, there were at one time women were in charge. I mean, they were the head honchos, and the men will follow through. But now it's like and like men to me, they feel like they they're it. I don't like this bias thing. I know I'm all over the place right now. I don't like this bias thing. Whereas if a woman have more than one partner, she's a hoe, and a man have more than one partner, he's a stud. The way I look at it, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. A woman might bring home a whole bunch of babies, but then the man spread out his babies all over the place. Either way,
Right.
they both having babies. So they shouldn't be like that. And this helpmate thing, a man feel there are some men feel like if they get married, this woman got to take care of him just like his mama did. No, no, I'm not your mama, so I'm not gonna clean up behind you. I'm not gonna cook every meal that you want and all that other stuff. No, I don't believe in you got to do this. I believe that if you want to do it, you got to make me want to feel like I want to do it. That's the way I look at it. I would cook for you. I have no problem cooking for my spouse, none whatsoever. But say I have to, we got another story there. I don't have to do anything. You are my spouse. I am not your maid. We are partners, and that's it. I'm not your stepping stone for you to be beating on, for me you to be telling me how ugly I am and slapping on me and all that kind of stuff. Nope. There are some men who think this is my property. I can do what I want to do with them. If I don't want you to go to the store and hang with your girlfriends, you're not going. Nope, that's not happening. And there are some men who are like that. I know you're ready to say something.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have to understand, where did that come from? When we look at where did this patriotic type mindset come from, okay? Even when it comes down to the creation of humanity, men have established the pecking order, and meaning that in order to control the actions and efforts of everybody involved, men went to the front of the line. There are many systems that show or cultures that have shown that women were in a front position, okay? Being that a woman is the one that brings humanity in the world. A man would not come here without the availability of a woman. But there's a story that's in ancient time that suggests that the woman, who we call Mother Nature, birthed mankind. But then that was switched, because man said, "Hold it, we can't have that. Can't have that story. Women gonna go out of crazy. They're gonna go nuts if they understood or knew the secret that they are the ones that brought us into the world." So what did men do? They had to come up with something. They said, "Well, God made man, and He made man in God's image. And from the rib of man, guess what He did? He made a woman." So that meant that a woman would always be or part of a man. And in the man's psyche, he said, if she's part of my rib, part of my body, that means I control her. Okay?
No,
So that
no,
whole
no.
Well, no. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you how it came about. Before y'all beat me over the head, let's throw the truth into the room. This is how all this stuff came about. And then you got to create rules and regulations that monitor the behavior of women. So when men could go out and get as many women as possible, but in order for a man to control the actions and efforts of a woman, he said, "I got to do something to control the actions and efforts of a woman." So she'll be a good woman if she's a wife. Oh, okay. And that is something sanctioned by God, because you always bring that name in that controls everything. You say, it ain't us. This is what God wants. God wants the woman to be a helpmate to who? The man. Because guess what? Because the woman comes out of the rib of the man. So that means that the man will always be an authority of the woman. Now, that's not something that might have been, like I said, we brought up earlier, 2 million years ago, this was not in the procedure. Somehow, somewhere, this started to come forward. And it came forward based on the fact that men wanted to make sure that they control the actions and efforts of women. And it goes on to modern day. But as we evolve, but I'm gonna let you get in there, and I'll share something about the evolution of the sexes and why a lot of that is changing.
Okay, I just want to say this. Where did the rib come from? Under his arm, right, to be loved by him. From near his heart, to be loved by him, under the arm, to be protected by him. He's supposed to protect her. He's supposed to love her. You know, that's what Rib, not from behind. She didn't come from the behind part. She came from the side to walk beside him. You know,
Okay. Well,
that's the way I look at that Rib and Adam and Eve.
Accepting that story to be real as a woman, okay, you automatically commit yourself to a man by accepting the story that what? The man comes from God and you come what? From man.
Yeah,
and
but
you know,
then too, you got to remember, Eve is the second woman. The first woman left Adam because she wasn't going to put up with his crap. She left him, and God made Eve. Eve is the second woman. Look it up.
And then and that's Lila. Now, where did she come from?
God created her. All I can tell you.
Hold that point. Now, there's stories that support the birth of Lila, just like Adam. Both of them coming into the world equal and the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that is changed, and when you look at the first time, now we look at a book, which is the Bible, biblical reference, but all those stories were written around what? The 1500s.
I don't know.
The whole story, the whole story about Adam and Eve that we know today, which sets up the hierarchy of the male dominance of women, was created during that time period. Well, it was agreed upon a long time before that. But the actual book that we reference, the relationship between man and woman that you just brought up, that said what? Women come from man. Men come from God, and women come from man. Now, if you go with Lila,
God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. You know, and that's why he put Adam to sleep and made Eve from his rib.
The second woman. But who put that story there? Let's just go there for a second, because you brought up Lila, who was the first woman.
Yes.
Now, Lila has no attachment to Adam like Eve. Why is that? Who created that story?
I guess man did. They weren't paying attention when they did it.
Well, you said something earlier. You said that Lila she left. She didn't put up with that. She was an independent. However you want to look at it, she was independent of Adam.
Yeah.
Okay. The rules now. If you buy into the Adam and Eve concept, you automatically buy into male superiority.
Yeah, but I don't look at it as him being superior, but equal to be loved, to protect her and all of that kind of stuff, not to be so much as dominating over her, but a protector.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it. As a protector and a loving person, because he must have been raunchy to Lily. He must have been raunchy and made her leave.
Well, now, if you come straight from God, well, check this out. If you come straight from God, you don't need a protector. You got the same authority that the one called Adam had. So Lila would have had the same authority that Adam had. Okay? Now, somehow that's been perverted, okay? And the hierarchy has been set by man to say that what? Man comes from God, and the woman comes from man. Now, you as a woman know that can't be true.
No.
Okay, because
that's the way they put it.
Well, that debunks that story off the rip. Okay, so you automatically know that men set that story in place to control the action and efforts of women. Before then, prior to the documentation, but even before that, when we go to before Common Era, there's always been a hierarchy that was set up for the man to be in charge of the woman. Okay. Now, what really reinforced it during what we call modern history is the fact that women are not recognized as power structures or power beings. Okay, you might have heard about Joan of Arc, a couple here and a couple there, but somebody decided that they were not going to have a lot of women sheroes. Okay, somebody established that. Now, one of the things that happened now, the evolution of species, the human species, male and female. Some things got to dissipate. Some things got to fall off. One of the reasons women came into their own rights, the modern day woman, she said, you know what? I can do the same thing that a man can do. Now, men begin to fight it because the only way men know how to do stuff is to pervert it. When women rights started to come out, women were saying they didn't want to go pick up 500 pounds and carry it down the street like a man. What they said, they wanted, if a woman was going to do a job, she wanted to be paid at the same rate that a man would be paid. That's it. What did the men do? The men, and I know it's going to be hard for me to show my face in front of men, but the men that we know now didn't create these rules. These rules were created by white European men. Okay, in order to maintain their existence and give them a form of in chargeness over the hierarchy, which meant that
superiority.
A man knew that even amongst other men, he was he was considered equal. Okay, so he had to create something that he was in charge of, and he did that by rules, laws, and things like that, and that became a norm for women to accept the fact they were in second place. We come from the rib, we come from man. Women did not even have the concept that they belong to God. As a matter of fact, women would say that the only way they could get closer to God is, guess what? By marrying a husband. And that was the rules of the game. Women, that's one reason women would say, well, hey, women can't even get close to God, because man is what? Close to God. And women are close to man. And the only way you can complete the transition is to do what? Pair up with a man. And that has been set in stone for so long. And now women are waking up. They're challenging the status quo, which was established.
I didn't get that concept.
What's that?
I didn't get that concept. That you got to marry a man in order to be close to God.
Well, most women bought into the concept. When you said that women, and you agree that women come from men, you automatically buy into the concept.
Well, I remember the story. Doesn't mean that I exactly agree with it. But remembering the story and exactly going along with everything the man stand for after that, that's two different things.
Okay.
Two different things. Now, I remember the story, but to say that man control woman, I still say no. Came from the side to be loved by him, and not from behind to be stomped on, not from the foot, to be trampled on. That's not where a woman came from, but from the rib. So, rib to be loved.
Once you buy into that concept, you give men the authority to control what? How they love you, how they respect you, how they see you. Automatically, I'm just saying, you said it. I didn't say it.
Man has the ability, supposed to love and protect the woman, not control the woman. Love and protect from the rib, near the heart. Love and protect under the arm.
What does she need protection from?
From all these other vicious things. I don't know.
What?
From the storm.
What I'm saying now,
or something. Make her feel good.
Do you think Lila, the first woman, depended on Adam to protect her?
No.
Okay. Now, this is a second generation woman that was created under the umbrella of Eve. And Eve is a dependent woman upon who? Adam, or the first man. And the first man comes from what? God. So she buys into the concept that the only way she get closer to God is through what? Her husband or Adam. And that's how it is.
Yeah, well, I don't exactly agree with that, but I'm listening.
Well,
I'm
I'm just telling you
listening.
how the order started, and now they're breaking that order. You know, when you bring a lot up or the first woman, and you can Google the first woman, because most folks don't even know how old she was when she demised, because they don't put it in the scripture. You gotta go deep to find how old Lila was, and how many kids did she bear.
You know what? I didn't know that she buried any.
But they didn't tell you that.
No, my question is, okay, if Adam and Eve only had 2 kids, where did the others come from?
Okay. Well, you look at now all my biblical studiers and scholars, they'll tell you. Now, when it says that now Adam and Eve had what his son, Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
One of them killed the other. Whoever killed the other one, and he was placed out into a crazy an abyss. And the people that he went around, matter of fact, not to get deep, but I got to bring this up real quick. Those were the children of Lila. Okay. Now there's a guy that was he's on the side of Stone Mountain now. He brought an issue up before United States Congress, and he talked about this scenario. The children of Lila, who were considered to be abyss, these were the bad seeds, the ones that didn't obey. And he said that this is where black people came from. Stonewall Jackson. I mean, what's the general? That's what he said. He said that in Congress. He's the one that's on the horse, the third horse on Stone Mountain.
Uh-huh.
That's what he said. Based on a biblical reference that what? The children, now he didn't say lilac, he said the children that were in the abyss. That's meant that the children that did not come from Adam and Eve. Okay? That's a whole different group of people. Okay? Now, Adam's, now he had some more sons, but the one that I'm trying to think who Cain killed Abel. So Cain was sent out and he dwelt amongst those people. And that's where Cain's kids came from. Lilac's side of the world.
Okay. So that means that Adam and Lilac had children.
No. Lily. She didn't need Adam to have kids.
Okay.
And now you're asking some questions, okay? Now you can answer your own questions. Because if now Adam couldn't have kids, so you got to think something. Now, this is why the women that buy into the Adam and Eve concept, and the women that now some women, they don't call her Lila. It's another name. That's a European term, Lila, okay?
Okay. She had another name?
Yeah, it's just like Adam's got many. Everybody's got different names. It depends on who interprets the story.
Okay. I
mean, it's just like Africa. Kemet, Africa goes Akubalan. All these are names of Africa. So somebody called it something, it is what it is. Well, you look at women, and not to get deep into the weeds, but women, and one of the things that's happening now, women are finding that it might have taken 2 million years, okay, to find your true nature, okay? And that true nature is not defined by male, female, okay? And the roles associated with male, female. They did studies in nature, okay? Not to say we come from monkeys, chimpanzees, and all of that type of stuff, but if you look at nature when it's undisturbed, a lion or a male lion, there are different things that happen, okay? They are equal, okay? They are equal. Matter of fact, you would rather, and who called the male lion the king of the jungle? Men did. But the king of the master of the jungle is the female lion, because that who goes out and gets the food. That's when the lions go out, they hunt. The male line hunts, but the per share of food, the female line is getting more food than the male line. Because there's not enough of them. There's not enough of male lions, okay? Just by the they don't survive as long as female lions. And that's true throughout all the animal species. So we have to look at it and say, well, why is the human species different? Who did that? Who changed the whole concept and put man as head of everything?
Well, it wasn't me. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
Well, and when you you're evolving. When you look at as women, like I said earlier, they started calling them women livers or women freedom fighters. Now, women during that time period, especially during the 50s and 60s, you know, women didn't want hazardous jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know, women,
they might not want a hazardous job, but there are some jobs that they might like doing. And men say that's a man's job. You can't be doing this. Some women like doing things. Some women like getting under the car, you know, being mechanics. You know, so
right.
I don't think they should be prevented from doing stuff like that just because they are females.
And I agree. But when did those jobs become, for instance, a stay-at-home mom? A stay-at-home mom became a glamorous job, guess when? When the man had to stay at home. When the man had to stay at home, be a stay-at-home dad, guess what? They started putting value on what? A stay-at-home mom. But before that...
Do they put value on them now? Do men actually value women?
No. I'm saying when men were staying at home to be a dad that stayed at home and the woman went out to provide for the household, that's when they assigned a value for the stay-at-home parent. They didn't call them a stay-at-home mom. They call them a stay-at-home parent. You see the removal of gender. They took male, female, and they established a rate of pay for a stay-at-home parent. Now, when you get alimony, you know, because at one point, women were not paying men what? Alimony or child support. So they had to come up with a rule, a regulation. Once the men were stay-at-home parent, they became, instead of stay-at-home men, they call it stay-at-home parents. And it became a measure in which, based on the man staying at home, that they would pay that man for staying at home while, you know, alimony. Before that, it wasn't in the calculation. So when you remove gender as a determining factor, you know, when you say HelpMate, you know, there's a partnership. What's the guy? Remember Teddy Pendergrass? Teddy Pendergrass came in the 70s. 50-50 love. That's a 50-50 shared responsibility, all that type of stuff. Well, a lot of that has changed interpretations of male and female. You know, one of the things that women are looking, and men looking at a fair relationship. Now that takes some work, and that doesn't get dictated to you by a rule or a law or something like that.
Yeah. And you know what? They talk about this 50-50 thing, but actually it should be 75-75. 75-75. You know, I'm doing a little bit more than normal, you know, to make it work. And you should be doing more.
Well, actually, it should be 100% on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking that, but I just cut it down to 75.
Well, now that means equal. Like I said, 2 million years ago, it was 100% on both sides. Somebody else came up with a configuration that gave the male more. Okay. Based on what? A concept that he figured because he was bigger, stronger, or whatever, he should get more. Now I'm gonna share this with you. Because of gender and gender removal, you can take open relationships, whereas there's no defined role between a male and a female. You can take two what we call females or two what we call males. Okay, gender preference holds no weight. Because in there we got two females. Who's going to be the man and who's going to be the lady? That doesn't have to exist. And they found out that people that tried to do it based on the old standard couldn't survive. The same thing with two males. They had to be 100 and 100%. They had to be equal because all these other roles and cooking and cleaning and who gonna do this, who gonna do the washing, those are things that were created by the male, and in most cases, the European male, to maintain his dominance over the female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see that stuff don't set too well in a lot of households, because if both of them are going out to work, and then both of them should do the housework, both of them should do the cooking. The woman shouldn't have to go to work, come home, cook, clean, take care of the babies, and go to bed when the man just go to work and come home. That shouldn't be. And a lot of people think that they should do that. A lot of men think that if they go to work, then they should come home, and when the wife get there, she should cook and serve him. That's not happening.
Who established that mindset?
European.
Well, yeah, all the men. Like I said, this was not the original intent of humankind. Somebody doing some part has changed that. And one of the things, like I said, women now across the world, you have women in China that are fighting back. They no longer want to do the old way they were doing. Right. In all kind of cultures. Now it might take some time. In the United States, a little more maybe progressive. Europe might be a little bit more progressive because you have women that are assert the position to say, I'm equal. Okay, I don't need your approval. I don't need you to protect me. If I want some protection, I buy a Colt 45 or a gun.
Yeah, and it's the younger generation that's going more toward that versus the older one. Because the older one said, that's your husband. Do what he say do. If he hit you, it'll be all right. Going back to him.
Who made that rule and who set those parameters up so that you had to follow? Now people are breaking all those rules. Who said that a woman's job is just to create babies? Some women have just, man, what? Matter of fact, there are many women that already, they say, what? I don't even need a man to create a baby.
Exactly.
I get artificial injection. And then I don't have to deal with the headache of being submissive or bound down to the rules and obligations of this man. So even though that sounds, it's abrupt, because men are finding out they're losing control of women. Now, it took a while, okay? And this is happening in all culture. In Afghanistan, I just saw an article. This is show you how sick the mindset of men is, okay? Now, they were getting blown up in a war, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what their main concern was?
What?
Being blown up in the war, being shot at. Guess what the people in Afghanistan, their main concern was how to keep the women in check. Okay? Now
really?
you in war. This. Oh yeah, that's a crazy article. I had pulled it up and I said, well, out of all the things that they had to focus on, they wanted to maintain the control of the women.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I didn't like about Saudi Arabia. That women have to be covered up. They can't drive, that men just totally control them. It's like, no way. I couldn't live in that culture where I have to have a man to take me everywhere I go. I can't have permission to drive. I can't have permission to get an education. No, I am my own individual. I have my own dreams, and ain't no man gonna stop me. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't believe it. Some men they do, they influence women, to
Mm-hmm.
slow it down, and some women they take the back seat to their knowledge and stuff like that just to please a man to because of their ego.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
men are intimidated by smart women. So
well,
some women play dumb, so they won't have to have this conflict. But
well,
they shouldn't
again,
have to do that. Man should accept the woman as she are. He
well,
should be encouraging her to do her best to be the top. That's what a
it's
man
not
should be
about,
doing, and not trying
well,
to intimidate her and make her feel like she shouldn't be doing that.
well, again, if you give someone else the power to control what and how you feel, then you have given them authority. And this is what it says. This is what, check this out. This is an article. The patriarchy having been somewhat in retreat in parts of the world is back in our faces. In Afghanistan, the Taliban once again prowled the streets, more concerned with keeping women at home and in strict dress code than with the impending collapse of the country and its famine. Okay, now that shows you the weakness of men. Okay, because now they're getting bombarded. This is before the United States pulled out. They were getting bombarded, beat up, but guess what? The main thing they had in their mind, keeping the
Control.
women in. Yeah.
That don't make no sense. That doesn't make any sense at all.
And you're going to like this one. And on another continent, parts of the United States are legislating to ensure that women can no longer have a legal abortion. In both cases, lurking patriarchal belief were allowed to reemerge when political leadership failed. We have an eerie feeling of traveling back through time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you hear about the woman in Texas? Yeah, this woman in Texas, she done been to the emergency room like 3 or 4 times with her baby. She's pregnant. And the doctor already said that the baby has some kind of problem and it's going to die either in her or after birth. And
Right.
it's hindering this lady, is hindering her life because she may not be able to have children anymore if she go through with it. This woman went to court, got approved to have an abortion, and then the AG of Texas said that if a doctor assists her, he's going to prosecute. If her husband take her to the doctor to get the abortion, he's going to prosecute him. Now,
Right.
this woman's life is in danger, and this man want to stop her from having an abortion. That is too much power over a man, over a woman. That is too much power. I'm not going to put it out there, but he needs to go.
Well,
He needs to go because they're having babies over women's life. And that's not cool at all. A
now,
man
right
having control over a woman. Man having
right,
control over a woman, that is not going to happen all the time. And this woman
right,
leaving the state to go get an abortion because her life is at stake. And this man don't care. He ain't having no baby. He don't have to throw up and stay home off his feet and all this kind of stuff because he's pregnant. Men should be pregnant. That's what should happen. They should figure out a way when a woman gets pregnant, they take it out of them and put it in these men so they can carry these babies. That's what should happen.
Now, think about this as women. There's more women on the planet than men. There are more women on the planet than men. Okay? Men, the minority population has come up with rules, regulations to guide and control the actions and efforts of women. Here's the article. The statue of women has been a long-standing point of interest in history. Contrary to common belief, research shows that the patriarchy is not the natural order of things. That means male dominance. It has always been prevalent and may in fact disappear eventually because of things you're saying. Hunter-gathering communities may have been void of gender roles. Okay, just like we're seeing in the animal kingdom. Uh, Now, female leaders and what they call matriarchic societies have always existed. Women, just like black people, figuring out their existence in history. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
women, the majority population on this planet, are starting to figure out and see why they were omitted in history.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, and they are omitted in a lot of stuff too. They always, if you look in the history books, a lot of stuff is what men did. They
right.
eliminated women. They've been omitted. They're just not there. But I don't know. Let's talk about the friends. How the husbands. Well, we won't just say husband. How mates try to control the other one, their friends, and all of that kind of stuff. There are people who say we're married now, so you only hang with me, and you can't have any other friends. You can't even hang with your parents, your family members. You know, would you say that was abuse? When it,
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah,
well, yes.
yeah, and it's a mental abuse to me. If you said you can't speak to your family members, you can't go spend time with them and stuff, isolating them, that's making the normally it's the woman who's being controlled. So the man is making her dependent on him, and that's not cool at all. So
Well, you just pointed out something. Okay. Now, when we look at the structure of humankind, okay, anytime the number of women gets less than the number of men on this planet, or what we call men and what we call women, guess what happens?
what?
The population dies. Okay. That automatically shows you uh, who's the most needed, a dominant, uh, you know, part of humanity, women. Okay, that will reflect who was here first. Now, you know, we can go back and forth, and usually because when the hunter tells the story, the hunter didn't tell you the story about what it hunted. Okay, they show you trophies, they put up pictures, they portray the whole imagery. Well, what has happened, and it's starting to pop up more now, because we, for the first, women used to not even were allowed to go and research history.
Mm.
The people, I mean, black folk had to go because they needed black men to show them how to get to what they already knew. Okay. But when women started to go and be anthropologists and those type folk, uh, they, they just started recently to go, and mostly white and European women. Well, again, establishing an identity to be followed by them. Okay. And that takes a lot. That's a deep thing. It's hard for us to even visualize that somebody would come up with rules and regulations to control one segment of the population. And we just talking about women. We're not talking about other races of people. Now, when you start getting from the European male to the woman, which is European woman, and then all other women, and then under all other women, the what? People that you own property. We talk about property. Property is immediately associated with slavery, bondage. When you look at sex trafficking, right now on this planet right now, there are more, or at least there's an organization called 2 billion rising. There are over 2 billion women enslaved right now in
Proper.
bondage. And I'm not talking about bondage from a husband-wife standpoint. I'm talking about property for sex
Mhm.
slaves, all of that. Okay, that's going on now.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's more women. That's the thing. But thing is, uh, when you get married, that's not property. That's a partnership. It's equal. You don't own me and I don't own you. You don't tell me what to do. You can ask me what to do. You know, and there shouldn't be any restriction on when you get married for love, not for ownership. And people should understand that and fight for it. You know, some people think once they get married, then the man change on them, and then they have to subdue to them, submit to that. You don't have to. You have to stand your ground. Stand your ground. I mean, there's only so much submitting you can do. Well, for me, let me put it like this. I will submit, okay, on my terms. That's the way I put it. On my terms, I will submit what if I feel like it's good for me to submit, I will. But I'm not just gonna just be out there just
Well, when you say submit, submit is a powerful word. They use submit when it comes to any type of bondage, okay? Slavery. What do you say? Slave, submit yourself to your master. The word submit is a word that was injected into the whole process, okay? See, one of the things that's happening now, people are removing a lot of the language that's considered to be controlling language.
Yeah, well, maybe I should say back down then.
Well, back down.
I'm not one who control to be controlled. I would back down for peace sake, because I'm not a troublemaker.
That's not necessarily backing down. It's you have, when you got 100% equal. I value what you say, and you value what I say. Okay. When it's any less than that, there's a control issue.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, in relationships, you have to learn when to keep your mouth shut. You got to learn when to, even though you might be right, you don't always just speak your piece, because sometimes that doesn't solve any problems. The way I look at it, because somebody asked me, how did y'all stay together so long and learn to keep my mouth shut? Because sometimes these words, they can be horrible, right. and you want to keep the peace. You want to keep the peace. So you go in with love, not
Well, most of that is ego. Anytime you lose one of the percentages, it's got something to do with ego. Okay, if both of us are at 100%, okay, if my ego gets in there, I immediately start attacking you and trying to bring down your 100%. If your ego gets in there, you immediately start to attack and try to break down my 100%. But if we remove ego from the equation, we can rationalize and have a conversation and come up with a better solution.
Yeah, and one of the things I always say, pride is no place for a relationship.
Yeah, pride, ego, all that's in the same game.
Yeah, and a lot of people use it. I ain't gonna let this woman do me like this. I'm gonna put her in her place.
That's a taught behavior. Who taught that guy that? Where did he learn that from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes from his buddies.
Well, or his father, or his father's father. There's like I say, historical evidence that points that all this stuff is not necessary. Somebody created this in order to create some false reality that controls the actions and efforts of someone.
Yeah, but what it boils down to, nobody controls anybody. Nobody owns anybody. It's a mutual relationship is what it's supposed to be. You don't control anybody. And if somebody controlling you and you don't feel good about it, you need to change it.
Well, think about this. If the creator of all things, whether you call it God, the Most High, whatever you want to call it, it gives you free will. It gives you 100% of action to do whatever you want to do. You got 100% in control of everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
This comes from the Creator. It doesn't need to be somebody in the middle that say, okay, I got 100% and I'm going to give you 20% of my 100. That ain't happening. And that's a false concept.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's not happening. You want to always love yourself, and a lot of times people stay in relationships and they accept things because they have low self-esteem. They need to be validated by that person. So you don't need anybody to validate you. That's one of the things. Because I know people be in abusive relationships because they need to be validated. If that person tell them that they're ugly and nobody wants you but me, so you got to stay with me, that's a validation that they accept, and you don't need that. Validate yourself. You know, so we got to step up the game. We got to step up. And this partnership thing is supposed to be a partnership equally. You're supposed to be equally as happy to be in it as the other person is. No property. I don't own you. You can't come to my job and tell me to quit if I don't want to quit. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and there are people, because I know this one time when they used to do this. This woman, she wanted a job, and she told those people at her husband told these people don't hire her, you know, and they didn't
And that,
hire her
yeah.
because of that property thing. You know, I guess
Yeah.
he was the husband and he owned her. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. So
Oh, yeah.
she didn't get a job until after they got a divorce. And then
Wow.
she went back and they hired her. You know, that shouldn't happen. You know, I know this one woman, she bought some land, and during that time, the woman couldn't have land in her name, so it was put in the man's name. No, she bought it, and then years later, he sold the land. That was her land, but he sold it. You know, and he kept the money for it. You know, so stuff like that. That shouldn't happen, and it should continue to go on, even though people still do it. I know they have bank accounts right now. It's supposed to be equal. We put the money in together and we sharing and stuff. But sometimes he might take all the money. He take your money and his money and control it all. You know, and give her what she wants. She working every day just like but he'll give her what she wants. That's That's property.
That's ego, pride, controlism, all this stuff, all the negative just coming out, you know. But I think one of the things that's happening, conversations like this, I think the future of relationships are going to return back to prehistoric conditions, when each party was 100% and rationalized and thought and cared about the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to. But our time is up. We were talking today about HelpMate, partnership, and property. And hopefully we got something out of that. Reggie, you want to say your last words before we get out of here on this particular topic?
Yes, I would say that you are 100% you. Anytime you lose any of your 100%, something's wrong.
Okay. Anytime you lose any, you're 100%. Yeah, and I just want to say that in relationships, we get into a relationship, we marry for helpmates, a partnership, not property. A husband is not your property. A wife is not your property. You don't own them. You are friends. You're supposed to be like friends. You get together, get along together, not control. We don't control our friends. We don't control our mates. We love them and just get along with them. We don't control them. Okay? So just remember that. Love your mates. Don't control them. And that's going to be it for today. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Okay? Y'all have a good one.